Hello friends, Nayaswami Hriman here. I'm re-recording a broadcast because we had internet issues. I would like to sing thy name. I will sing thy name, I will drink thy name, and get all drunk or with thy name. I will sing thy name, I will drink thy name, and get all drunk or with thy name. Hello once again. I am going to read you a poem, as I have been doing in recent weeks. This one by Paramhansa Yogananda was published in March of 1938, and it's called Another Wakefulness. I am in another wakefulness in thee. I am awake in another world. Once in a while I dream of this earth and the drama of the little body of mine in it. I am awake in ceaseless blessedness. And my diurnal dream of mundane life is fragrant with memory fragrance of my ever-bubbling, joyous wakefulness. I am moving through the panorama of dream-decked life, adorned with many scenic experiences, and I carry the aromatic memory of my earth dreams into the awareness of the eternal spheres. I weeded out the nightmares from the garden of my dreams, and planted the roses of my inspirations. There thou must come, lured by my devotion's fragrances, and take me back to thy temple of everlasting, ever new, boundless blessedness. Well, do we too also live in another world? Yes, I think we do. Certainly when we dream at night, of course, but also as we move through the day. We are very often in another world of our own thoughts. We only sometimes pay attention to what we're doing. And so we're fragmented. We're kind of broken. We're not whole. Be still and know. A friend of mine was telling me that in the deepest part of the ocean, in the Mariana Trench in the South Pacific, they have found life forms and life thriving. And it occurs to me that when we look at the universe through the eyes of what science tells us, the universe is teeming with life. It's incredible. It's as if God, the Creator, or just life itself, if you prefer, is impulsively, naturally, organically creative. I think of a forest of trees, out of which we have figured out how to make our homes. I think of giant mountains, out of which we mine rocks in order to build enormous things, temples and giant buildings. When you think of what humanity has been able to do with the minerals and so forth of life, and take things out of the earth and make copper and iron and metal and aluminum, and it's really fabulous. Life is creativity. Life is creative. Then as a throwback, I was thinking of the process and practice of alchemy during the Middle Ages. There's an innate knowing of ourselves that we can transform things, and spiritually, we can transform ourselves, our consciousness. But in alchemy, they would take base materials, I suppose metals, I assume, and try to find the secret by which they could convert something base and cheap, you might say, from that point of view, into something precious, gold. Well, that's what we do. If you look at the broad spectrum of the spiritual path, you see that how, in whatever language is used, whether the attitude is somewhat grim or negative, or whether the attitude is joyful, it's a transforming process of that which is may be selfish, that which is very limited, fixed in the human body, precariously living in a human body, that which is fixated upon the report and the gifts as well as the nightmares offered to us by the senses, and seeking to transform these feet of clay, this body made of the dust of the earth. You know, I was reading somewhere that in a deep scripture of India, the human body was described as made of food. And I'd never really thought about that before, but that's exactly right. The physical aspects of the body and the blood and the tissues and the organs and all these things are chemicalized from the earth around us. God made us from the dust of the earth. And when we think of a human life, a little baby helpless, a toddler struggling to walk and learn, a school child, an adolescent trying to figure out their place in the world, a young adult trying to also establish their place in the adult world, etc. You know, it's a constant process of evolution towards ever greater dominion, ever greater awareness, even if you see it from selfish standpoint of amassing wealth or status and prestige or pleasures of the world. Nonetheless, it's an expansion of consciousness. Only when we are injured mentally or physically, think of depression, clinical depression, think of a terrible injury that makes one completely helpless, let's say, for the rest of one's life. Other traumas that really make us dysfunctional. But otherwise, our impulse is to refine and grow. And the thought that came to me was how much like angels, striving to be angels, which is to be evanescent, to be not locked in these feet of clay, is the evolution of the spiritual path. We see in the different scriptures interactions of humans with angels. We have described, I like to describe the intelligences of the powers that guide the subtler functions of the body, the astral body, the chakras, as we know them in the teachings of yoga, as being angels, higher intelligences that like the genie where you rub the bottle, you find this genie and you buy him in this bottle and you rub the bottle and the genie comes out, and in return for having been released from the bottle, the genie offers you 3 wishes. Well, the higher powers, higher abilities, you know, even when you go to school to learn a trade or a profession or something, you gain these gifts, these powers by which you can increase your income, increase your wealth, increase your status, your skills, the satisfaction of having skills. All life moves in that creative, expansive way. But on the spiritual path, we're transforming, you know, whether it's the via negativa, as I talked about the other day, whereby we discipline the senses, or whether the via positiva, whereby we serve humanity, we have acts of devotion, and it doesn't matter. What we're trying to do is become like an angel, to transform this heavy consciousness, selfish consciousness, body-bound limitations, and live with the angels, to become light, to become free, to be able to flit about, so to speak. This is why, or not why, but this is when I think of space travel or airplane travel or communications, travel by communications and the internet. These are all increasingly refined ways of expanding our sense of space. And so it could be said that the entire trajectory of human consciousness, whether seen on a material plane or in a spiritual way, is the innate, intuitive impulse to refine our nature beyond the limitations given to us at birth. We want to be an angel, and so we should act like an angel, forbearing, kind, wise, fluid, adaptable, light. You see? So be with angels, be an angel among men. All right. Thank you, and stay tuned.